So during the initial parts of creating Emberpoint, we knew that we wanted to have voice acting within the game. So the first thing we did was get our narrative designer to create the script for the game's story so that we could get voice actors for the project in the future. I also wanted to have more voiceover events happen within the game depending on actions caused by the player. For example, the player overheating their weapon, getting injured, grunts, and other miscellaneous actions. So I created an Excel sheet to mark things that could occur within the game and created lines that could match the characters in those specific moments. I also wanted to plan for scenarios for if the player ran through the game too quickly. I didn't want the dialogue to just cut off and start at weird sections because I felt that it would draw the player out of the experience. So I worked with our team's project manager to change certain segments of the script to flow a lot better in case the player did cut off the dialogue in some way. I called these sections fail-safe sections.
I still can't put my head around Gilcord. Wait, did that cable just light up? I'm starting to think those weren't failed trials, but part of something bigger.
Might be onto something, man. My leader seems to be picking up on words of how he's lurking around.
So after all the preparation, we snatched a classroom right before another class was actually about to happen, and we got all our voice actors to record the script before we were kicked out. Luckily, we managed to record everything without any major hiccups, which I'm really happy for. After the recording, I spent time mixing and adding effects to the dialogue to make each character's voice sound a little more interesting. For the main character, Gravitas, my goal was to make him sound a lot more like a badass that was wearing a mask in order to breathe. And for Nico, I wanted him to sound like he was speaking to Gravitas, our main character, via a communication device.
Fucking Christ, what's going on?
That was weak.
Fix it then. I need you if I'm gonna make it out of here.
Well, I can't hear you.
God damn it.
After exporting all these lines into WIs, I separated them by chapters in the script using switch containers, and after that I created states for each section that I had labeled in the script. Next, all I really had to do was just get these lines playing within the game, so in order to do that I created an actor called the dialogue player that would activate a specific WI's post event and change the state of our switch depending on if the player collided with the actor's collision box. In order to stop any dialogue that was already happening, all I did was stop the switch container that was playing that dialogue using a stop audio post event for that specific switch container. Then boom, we had cool voice acting within the game, and it was honestly really cool to go from recording voiceover to actually getting it within our project.
Are you picking up on any more pustules?
What?
I said, are there any more pustules left?
Oh, indeed? Yes, I'm picking up a few more, just ahead.
I even created a way for the dialogue to trigger from specific events in the level blueprint. For example, in the first big fight, the main character Gravitas must fight off a horde of monsters while Nico, his friend, tries to destroy the rubble blocking his path. During this sequence, I trigger my dialogue player to have voiceover playing while the player is in the middle of combat.
How's the breakdown coming?
It's coming. Just keep taking care of them.
To make sure the voices are actually heard, I use WIs to duck all the other audio buses such as combat sound effects and music. Another example of me using the dialogue player is actually in the game's intro, where we use the dialogue player actor to trigger voiceover during different stages of the tutorial.
And its use, along with...
I know. Get on with it.
Very well. The Katani Industries Firewolf exosuit, patent pending, can feel quite odd to the first-time user. Please move towards the glowing beacon in front of you.
Nova, I know how to walk. Was this necessary?
Yes, you asked me to be thorough.
To make sure that the voiceover was in the world, I used WI's rooms and portals to create reverberated spaces. To make sure that Gravitas' lines were the only voices getting reverb and not the AI or Nico, I exported Gravitas' stems on a separate track and enabled the use of game-defined aux sends.
Hello? Nico? Is anyone there? Fuck.
I also created another actor object called the dialogue world, which I use for controlling the one-liners that would be played during random player actions. For example, in the game I discussed with our narrative designer that I wanted our main character to say cheesy one-liners after executing an enemy. After an enemy execution, we just tell the dialogue world actor to play a Gravitas one-liner, and if Gravitas hasn't spoken in a while, then we just uncheck a cooldown bool to allow him to speak again, thus allowing him to say his one-liners.
Also, disappointing. Rest in pieces. This is some serious hardware.
This prevents the player from always hearing a one-liner every time they perform an execution, and it allows me to control how often I want an individual character to speak after player actions. Another example being if I ever wanted the AI to assist Gravitas in any way during combat.
Attacker fumigated.
Next time, bring a better challenge.